Greetings gamers, at least one of you has tried to add some mystery to your adventure by creating an unknown language, only to find later on that your players have comprehend language. You done fucked up. But it's okay, you can use comprehend languages to fuck with your players' minds. Alright, let's start with the minor points just real quick, get them out of the way. Comprehend languages is an incredibly versatile spell, and it can be cast by pretty much anyone. The only other things that you can have would be Eyes of the Runekeeper or Tongue. We'll get to those in a different video. So it can be cast as a ritual. They're going to be avoiding using their spell slots, but just bear in mind that as a ritual, it takes 10 minutes to cast this, and for the whole 10 minutes, they have to be concentrated. Anything can happen in 10 minutes to break the concentration of the spellcaster. Another thing that you want to keep in mind, it only lasts for an hour. If they're in the middle of a sensitive diplomatic mission or they're trying to prove their innocence about something, 1 hour is not going to be enough. The next thing that you need to remember is that it's got verbal, somatic, and material components. The spellcaster has to be able to speak. They have to have at least one hand free. They have to have either a material component, a pinch of soot and a pinch of salt, spellcasting focus, or a component pouch. In a situation where there's a completely foreign language, they've been taken hostage, or if they're being accused of something they didn't do, if they have their goods taken off them, then they don't have the material component. They might have their hands tied behind their back. They're not going to be able to cast the spell. And this can actually be played up to some really good dramatic effect. They'll feel really, really smart if they can scrape together a pinch of soot and, say, a pinch of salt from their dinner. They're going to be pretty pleased with themselves, and it might even turn into one of those stories that people tell about their D&D things like, oh, one time I had to scrape together some components to cast comprehend languages. Now, another point to remember, you can only cast it on yourself. Someone can translate for the rest of the party, but if they're not trustworthy, you should know your character's backstories. You should be able to manipulate your players into withholding information from their party, whether it's a vital clue, some kind of mysterious alliance, or whether it's the location of a treasure. All of these things can make for some really powerful dramatic irony between you and the player with comprehend languages. So this is the important thing to remember. It's the real gift to GMs. You can only understand the literal meaning of spoken words and written words. There are 2 points in here. A, literal meaning, and B, you can't speak the language. Literal meaning. I don't know if you've ever used Google, but I'm telling you now, you get some weird fucking translations from Google. That's because of the literal meaning of things. So how can you play with this as a GM? Think about a phrase that you can use to denote a question, like, it is known, and then append it into things. So instead of saying like, do I knock once or twice to get into the secret room, the message then becomes, when translated literally, it is known that I knock once or twice to get into the secret room. The mystery of the message is retained. So next up, you need to think about words that can be used instead of other words. Think slang, like Australians say mozzie instead of mosquito, or bicky instead of biscuit. Just replace some words with words that kind of similar. They play on the attributes of those words, but they're not that word. Instead of gold, you might have gleam. Hidden might be anything like pocketed, entrenched, disposed. Another great thing that you can play with is the fact that they can't speak the language. So you can play with that as a GM. You can have them do, charades. Your NPC can be as intelligent or as stupid as you like. So a really intelligent NPC, sure, they might understand what's going on. A really dumb NPC might have a hilarious misunderstanding. And I think that can make for some really lovely in-character moments. And now the real pleasure with comprehend languages, if you want to fuck with your players, to understand a language that is written, you have to touch the surface that the language is written on. I'm just going to let that sink in for a bit. The surface might be painful, it might be hot, it might be sticky. Like really questionably sticky. It might be poisonous. The words might be part of a spell circle. You can really fuck with your players' minds this way, and I assure you that You get them once with something like that, they will never get their grubby little player fingers on your strange languages ever again. Now, there are a couple of questions in regards to things like thieves cant. It's technically an exotic language. Specifically written in the rules of comprehend languages is that it can't decode secret codes and you can't read glyphs. But if a player is really pushing for it, and you don't want to say no, we go, actually in real life, thieves cant is a secret language made up of proper basic. So you can actually read it. It says something like, the deer is in the well. The players still have no idea what that means. But that could mean anything from like, stay away from this place, it's got guard dogs, or it might mean, loot the place, but leave the occupants unharmed. Just a word, GM to GM. What you really need to do is you need to think about the fact that you're using a secret language, and you need to ask yourself why. Games need to be run for two reasons. They need to be a good story and they need to be fun. And you gotta ask yourself, as a GM, why am I including this language? Is it just for background reasons? In which case it really shouldn't matter if people can understand what it is. Because you want something to remain a mystery for a time, how long are your players going to have to wait before they get that information? Because once you put that information out there, even if it's in a secret message, you got to expect your players to get it. If you're trying to think of ways around comprehend languages, then you need to really ask yourself, am I railroading my players? So there you go. Those are the secrets of comprehend languages revealed to you. Subscribe if you're interested in more GM tips like those. If you have any awkward GMing moments or have had any trouble with comprehend languages, leave it in the comments below.